Hey guys, I'm Sam Crack. I'm in the wrecked RS7 just trying to figure out how some of these things work. There's a bunch of failure things popping up on the screen, but hopefully we'll get all those taken care of pretty soon. Now, a little while ago, I released a video and it was about how this car was on its way to me to be delivered. I saw the car, met with the delivery driver, and then he just took off. I didn't give a lot more detail at that time because, well, I didn't have possession of the car and I wanted to get it in my possession. Obviously, I've got the car, it's mine, and a lot of you guys are wondering what happened. So today I'm going to give you that entire story. Now, fair warning, the story is somewhat lengthy, and if you could care less about this story, then go ahead, just hit the mute button, put on the Pusha T Daytona album, and enjoy that while you watch me throw the headlights in the front of this car, which were ungodly expensive. They didn't come with this car, and I had to buy them. I'm going to tell you how much I paid for those headlights probably in the next episode. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into this story. One of the first things you got to do after you win a car at auction and pay for the car is you got to schedule shipping out of the auction yard, or you got to schedule your own transport out of the auction yard. That's because they'll actually charge you storage fees if you leave the car in their yard too long. Now, I have pretty much all my cars shipped, and I deal with the shipping broker who will go out and find a transport company, a guy with a truck and a trailer, to come and pick the car up from the auction, deliver it to wherever I want them to deliver it to. In this case, I put the delivery address to my local body shop that I use. Now, this Audi was listed as a non-running or driving car, so you have to treat it like that when you're giving the information to your broker to book the shipment. Now, if a car doesn't run and drive, it's generally not the end of the world. It's whether it rolls or steers. In the case of the Audi, clearly you can see four wheels on the ground. It doesn't look like any of the suspension components are sagging, so we can assume that it rolls and steers, and that's how this job was posted. Now, I've transported several cars that don't run and drive, but just roll and steer. My Fiesta, my Corvette, the first DXP car, my Ford Focus RS. There's a couple more of them that I don't remember, but usually these trucks have winches, and I have a truck and a chain or something I can use to assist the truck driver in rolling the car off the trailer if they didn't put it on the end spot, which they always have, and it basically just rolls off the car when they stick it in neutral and take their foot off the brake. Now, in the case of a car that wouldn't roll or steer, which would be my second DXP car, I called before and spoke with the truck driver, asked him if he would meet me at a Copart location local to my area, where they would forklift the car off the trailer for me. It's called a Copart to Copart transfer. Some locations might charge you a little bit of money to do it, some don't. And this worked out flawlessly. I had no issues with this at all. Now, even though the driver was given the information that this car rolled and steered, I generally like to make contact with every single driver just to kind of find out when I'm expecting them for obvious reasons. And also, I like to ask them, do you need any assistance getting the car off the truck? I usually bring a second person with me, whether we need to push, whether I just need a little bit extra manpower for something. But I like to ask the truck driver, since they've physically seen the car, they've had it loaded onto their truck, do you see anything that would cause us to not be able to push this car off of your truck? In pretty much every instance I've ever dealt with in the past, every delivery driver has been pretty positive, and they're like, don't worry about it, we got a winch, this thing's going to come off our trailer, no problem, it's fine. In the case of the RS7, when I reached out to make contact with this specific delivery driver, the first time I called, he did answer the phone. I introduced myself as the guy that you're delivering the Audi to, and I just wanted to know whether or not you think we're going to need any extra assistance taking this car off the trailer. He immediately said that he was busy and he would talk to me later. He couldn't talk right now. And I said, that's totally fine. These guys are picking up and dropping off cars all the time. I completely understand. Now, it only takes, anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 days at the most to deliver a car. This car was coming from Austin, Texas, being delivered in Tampa, Florida. So the next day I gave him a call, didn't hear anything back. The next day I sent him a text message, said, hey, just want to touch base with you, make sure everything's fine. He wrote back, I'm in the middle of a delivery. I'll talk to you later. At this point, I figure he doesn't want to be bothered, and I still understand that because sometimes these delivery drivers are almost treated like UPS. People want to know, where's my package, or where's my car, and they don't have a tracking system like a UPS or a FedEx does. I'm fine with these delivery drivers taking their time. I don't really need a vehicle rush ship, but I definitely do like to game plan, because if they come and there's no way of getting the car off the truck, then you're both stuck there for a long amount of time, and it's just unnecessary on both ends. The day of the delivery is now here, and I haven't had any sort of conversation with the driver. He calls me first thing. He says, I'm bringing your car in a couple hours. how are you going to get it off my truck? And that's when I asked him, well, is it on your truck on all 4 wheels and tires? He kind of bypasses my questions and just says, well, do you have a forklift? And I said, well, I don't have a forklift, but what's the issue? Can't we push it off your truck? And things started becoming somewhat confrontational when they really didn't need to be. At that point, I feel pretty confident because I've got several cars that don't run or drive off of trailers in the past. Said, just show up, we'll get the car off your trailer, I'll pay, and you'll see you later. Driver shows up to the body shop with his truck in a 5-car hauler as I remember it. Here's a picture of the RS7 on the car hauler. The delivery driver got out of his truck, I introduced myself, and I started walking towards the RS7 when he told me, step away from the truck, let me remove the vehicle that's on the rear of the car first, then we'll try and get the Audi off. And I said, that's totally fine. So I stepped away and waited for him to remove the car that was located behind my car off the trailer. Now that that was done, I went back to the trailer and he told me again, step away from the trailer, and he got in the front seat of the Audi. When he opened the door, I noticed the dashboard didn't light up. I immediately knew the battery was dead, so we went and grabbed a battery jumper box, which didn't work at all. If you watch my previous video, there was a component missing from the battery connection in the trunk that prohibited power from getting to the entire car. When that didn't work, I knew that our only other option was to find the park override switch, which is in most modern cars. That is a button you can usually press. It's generally hidden around the transmission shifter selector. Push the button, put the car into neutral, and then it should roll freely. Now, when I tried to again get to the front seat of my car, which was still on this gentleman's trailer, he was sitting there and he's going, how are you going to get it off? And I'm going, well, can I get into the cabin and look for, some way to get the car into neutral? And he said, I own an Audi. I know how it works. At this point, he had repeated that phrase about 2 or 3 times. I own an Audi and I know how it works. And him prohibiting me from getting into the driver's seat of the car to figure out how it worked was frustrating me. I looked at him and said, well, if you know how it works, why isn't this car off your trailer already? Then I asked, where are the keys? Because, sometimes you got to be in proximity to the car. This is the first time I've ever dealt with an RS7. Although I figured that things would light up and things would work without the keys. I just want to know. He goes, they're around my neck. He refused to hand me the keys to get in the car and mess around with stuff. Finally, he stepped away from the car. I jumped in the driver's seat, whether he liked it or not. And I didn't see any apparent switch right off the bat to put the car into neutral. All while this is going on, my help from the body shop is underneath the car looking for transmission linkage to undo and again put the car into neutral. Unfortunately, I think they pretty well hide this sort of stuff on modern Audis. We literally had about 3 to 4 minutes with the car, myself in the driver's seat, my buddy from the body shop underneath the car, where he said, that's it, I don't have any more time. I got to go make another delivery in Tampa, and I'll be back later. Again, I'm trying to be rational. I want the car off his trailer. I find it strange that he would leave with the car still on his trailer, but he says he's coming right back. He's got to make a stop. Maybe he's got to meet a deadline with somebody else, whereas with me, it's more of a looser delivery time, so I wasn't worried about it. I was on the phone at that point with the Audi dealer. I said, look, I'm going to find out where the park override switch is on this thing. The second I find out is the second this thing comes off your truck. So if you want to wait another few minutes, we're going to get it figured out. If not, go ahead and make your delivery, and then I'll see you in a few hours. I take a minute, go online, do a bunch of research. I call a few Audi dealerships, and one of them was very helpful. I got the whole entire diagram showing exactly where the park release switch was in the RS7. It's right here in the front console, and it's just a tiny little door that pops open, and there you go. You can roll the car into neutral using that switch. Armed with this information, shortly after the delivery driver left, I waited a little longer to hear back from him, and a couple hours later, I started calling him, going, hey, when are you coming back here? Don't you want to, get this car off of your trailer? I received no response from him, period. I'm looking at my text logs now, so I can just give you a time frame, but an hour and a half after my initial text, told me he couldn't talk per the Department of Transportation, or DOT, and he attempted, but I wasn't prepared, so he doesn't really have to come back. So it went from, I'll be back a little later, to I'm not coming back and I don't have to come back. When I replied saying that you didn't communicate with me, period, beforehand about the drop-off, even though I had tried to, he basically said, you better have other plans or else we're going to have to make other plans, whatever the heck that means. In between all of our text conversations, by the way, he continually texts me saying, sorry, I can't talk due to Department of Transportation, DOT. Now, I think it's very strange that he's not able to talk on a phone due to the DOT rules, but the DOT rules would allow texting while driving a big truck. And in all sincerity, I have no clue what the DOT rules are, and I would imagine they probably do prohibit the use of a cell phone while driving a truck, so I'm not making fun of that, but I was receiving text messages while he was apparently making deliveries, whatever that means. The messages would just go back and forth at this point. There's no clear answer as to when I can expect him back. And the final message of the day was, also, I'm going to charge you another $200 on top because you weren't prepared. At this point, I'm in one of the most frustrated states I think I've ever been in, period. And I call up my shipping broker, explain to him the situation, say, hey, I don't mean to bother you, but this is what's going on and I need help here. I do want to thank the shipping broker who called up, basically said, you can't charge him anymore based on the contract. That's nonsense. The shipping broker called me back and said, hey, unfortunately, they're not going to bring you your car today. Now, somewhere in between all this or after this, I got a call from the delivery driver's business partner. Even though she was really pleasant, it was like a good cop, bad cop scenario, saying things like, we're sorry you weren't prepared for delivery. After several more calls between my broker and the delivery driver's business partner, I was pretty much told that this car wouldn't show back up until the weekend. That would be like 3 or 4 days after the initial date that they were supposed to deliver the car. They again blame that on DOT rules and regulations, that the driver was on their last day before they need to take a couple-day break and all this other stuff. Again, I don't know if these rules are real or not real. Besides just finding out how to pop this car into neutral, in the case that something was locked up, it is an all-wheel drive car, and the car wouldn't roll, I'd done a ton of other research. I figured that I could crawl into the back of the compartment of the car, hook up the battery like I did in the last video that you saw, go through that whole entire thing to try and get power to the car, because again, in the auction photo, it did show power to the dashboard, so I figured at one point or another, this car has to come off of his trailer. Now, one of the main suggestions when I uploaded the video was, why don't you call local law enforcement, see if there's anything they can do with you and report your car stolen. Now, I knew that I did have some sort of contract with this individual to pick up my car, so that wouldn't go very far, but I had to know what the contract stated, so one of the things that I figured out was that the contract is within 2 days of the expected delivery date. I don't remember exactly if it was Monday or Tuesday, but let's say it was Monday. If the delivery date was expected on Monday, and that's when they told me, then they'd have till Wednesday to deliver the vehicle, but they were talking again about the weekend. I let them know that they would be in breach of contract if that was the case. That didn't seem to faze the delivery driver nor their partner at all. So now the delivery day shows up. It's Saturday and I'm awaiting a phone call from them, which I get the phone call. I immediately start telling the delivery driver I know how we're going to get the car off the truck. I've got a backup plan if that fails. So let's get to it. I'll meet you at the same place. In which he replies that he doesn't want to meet me there at the same place because if it doesn't get off the trailer, then he's going to leave again. That he could meet me at an IAA location and I could pay their forklift driver to take it off the truck and put it in their yard, which makes no sense, right? I got to get this thing back with me, which I'm in the middle of shooting a video. I remember exactly when he called me and I had to stop everything I was doing. Basically, I said, look, I know how to get this car off the truck. Just come back to the body shop. And he's like, well, I would feel much better if we went to the IAA and did it. So I had to stop everything I was doing. I then had to go and borrow the black truck that you see me towing cars around in my videos from a family member of mine. So all simply to accommodate him, drive 20 minutes out of the way to then drive another hour out of the way to the IAA location. In between, I had to rent a U-Haul trailer. That's about $60 to $70 by itself because I don't own my own trailer. A lot of you guys ask why I don't own my own trailer. And the truth is space. Yes, I could get a trailer for a couple $1,000s, but keeping it around is a hassle, and I'd rather just pay $70 every few months to borrow a trailer from a U-Haul. I know it sounds crazy, but maybe one day if I get a little bit more storage and a big garage, I will definitely get a trailer and park it there. Now, one of the other things I told the delivery driver was, look, I'm going to be there, but it's going to take me an hour and a half to 2 hours because I have to stop, I have to pick up a truck, then I have to stop and pick up a trailer, and then this IAA is not right down the street from me. It's a good distance away. Will you still be there? He said, if I have to wait a few minutes, it's fine, but if I have to wait so many minutes, like I don't know, like a half hour or something, he goes, I'm going to leave. So again, just again with the threatening of the I'm going to leave nonsense. I'm frustrated. All I want is my car. This is the most amount of money I've ever spent on a car, sitting on this guy's trailer with thousands of dollars worth of parts in the trunk. I get to the IAA location an hour and a half exactly after I told him I'd be there in an hour and a half. He is not there until over an hour later. All right, we're now 25, 30 minutes later. Not here. know, just hanging out, the IAA, what I like to do on days that I have other stuff to do. And in between this, I called that IAA to make sure that we would, in fact, be able to use their loader. The RS7 came from an IAA in Texas, and at this specific IAA that I went to, they wanted like an extra $30 for the forklift to grab it off of his truck and move it onto my truck. So calculate up the fees here, guys. Have to go borrow a truck. Obviously, I put gas in that truck for that family member because I'm not going to return it after using it like that. I have to then go and I have to rent the U-Haul. That's a $60. It's another $30, or at least $115, $120 into this now. And we're just getting started. So after that hour waiting, shows up, comes and just pulls in. Again, he's got a car parked behind my car. I'm really wondering what this guy is doing. When I had told him, when I had met him there and said that I called and found out instructions, he said, hey, next time you do this, don't call IA. You're likely just confusing them. His tonality through the entire process was really, really disrespectful and rude, in my opinion. Finally, the forklift shows up after a little bit of time and waiting, and he looks at the guy and goes, how am I going to get this out of your truck? The car is parked in the belly of the trailer. He pulls up to the trailer. He's hitting the rear trailer bars, you know, the rear structure of the trailer, with his front loader tires. Now, the forks are reaching what I would say is the back third of the Audi, right underneath the rear axle. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why isn't this part captured on video? It's really unfortunate, but I put my phone on the windowsill of the truck and left on record to try and capture all this footage. The phone was hot and there was an error message and said camera stop to prevent overheating. But anyway, the forklift driver grabbed the rear of the Audi, rolled it back with the rear two tires in the air and the front two tires still on the belly of the truck, and was pulling it back ever so slightly. When the delivery driver walked up to me and goes, hey, do you want to try and throw it into neutral now, and I'll help you push it a little bit so he can get it off the rest of the way? At this point, I was done with this guy. Now, after all of this planning, he's nervous that the guy can't get the car off of his trailer. And I had figured I paid for the forklift, I paid for the thing. I'm not going to go and push the car now off of his trailer. Anyway, after about 3 or 4 times back and forth with the loader going and grabbing the rear of the car, rolling it back a little bit, doing it again, rolling it back a little bit more, putting it down, he got it off the trailer completely. I am so mentally relieved at this point because now the RS7 is off of his trailer and it's on mine. Until I go and look at where the forklift driver put the car, and he's got the car angled ever so slightly that one wheel on each side, the front driver and the rear passenger, is rubbing up against the edge of the trailer. Now, a lot of you guys noticed the HRE wheels on this car, which retail right around almost $3,000 a piece. I think they're between $2,500 and $3,000 a piece. And now I notice that 2 of them are rubbed. So I go up to the loader. I say, hey, you're going to have to pick this up and realign it. The wheels are touching. He goes, he realigns it again. And now one of the other wheels is touching the edge of the trailer. Third time, he goes and he gets it, and now it's somewhat centered. And 3 curved HRE wheels later, forget the $100, $120 it cost me to go and retrieve the car, and half a day lost. Does anybody out there have a good wheel finishing guy that can repair powder-coated HRE wheels with a custom color to them? If you made it this far and didn't fall asleep, good job. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you're wondering why I didn't say the name of the delivery driver, well, I'm about to tell you right now. I'm not going to give you his name, but I'll tell you the name of the company. But I have to tell you one thing, and that is, do not try and make any contact with this company or an individual in this company. Please do not try and call, text, do anything. The only thing it could do is make matters worse. Everything is over with at this point, but I want you to take this as my negative Yelp review or negative Google review for this company. If you hire a broker, you can hire them and say, hey, just make sure I don't get this company. Or if they assign you this company, which is a possibility depending on the route that your car will be running, just make sure you look at the name of the company and you could say, hey, I'd prefer to get a different driver, and they can go and find you somebody else. The name of the company, I've listed it in the description box below. Again, please do not try and make matters worse. So I'm trusting you guys with a good amount of responsibility here. Guys, I thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video taught you something. If it did, be sure to hit that like button. If you hated it, tell me in the comment section below. I assure you, in the upcoming rebuild videos for the RS7, we're going to get a ton more work done. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you very soon.